just stepping up in terms of what is going out there in the social media world. So I have been kind of working behind the scenes in the sense of I kind of had enough of people who are already there and making millions on a monthly basis, even on a daily basis. And I am kind of in a position where I'm restarting again. And if you've watched my previous video, you kind of see the nitty-gritty sides of things that these so-called very successful business people are forgetting, that we are nowhere near them, first of all, and secondly, that what did they do really to get to where they are. And in this video, I'm going to show you all what I'm busy doing and what I'm busy building in the sense of being the, how can I say, the middle man in terms of the start, the middle, and then obviously the success at the end. Okay, so on my whiteboard, I just quickly narrow down the last decade of my life in the sense of having a business, but in brackets, I'm still just self-employed. And the word self-employed, I was thinking about how can I see myself as the owner of this business, yet it doesn't consume me physically, mentally, financially, all of these points that we miss when we are either thinking of starting a new business or leaving our current job. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I have my own business, but I am employed by myself. And that is, for me, a very critical thing that new entrepreneurs miss in the sense of stepping out of the 9 to 5, starting their own business, and really struggling day in, day out for maybe the first 3 years of having this business. That they become the receptionist, they become the bookkeeper, you kind of clean the floors, you do the maintenance, you do the sales, you do the marketing, you do everything on your own, to an extent that when you fast forward, founders 20, 30 years down the line still sit in that same chair, in that same office with the business they built, thinking that it will actually lead to their freedom. Okay, so the first business I started was a little swim school in a very small town, and it was at the time such an exciting journey for me in learning how to, just by offering a service that people needed and getting paid kind of immediately for it. So there was this instant gratification when I started out, left my 9 to 5, moved to a different region in the country, and basically survived on my own for about half a decade. Okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate the first half decade of the last decade. Okay, so this was in 2016 when I opened this little business, and it was flourishing. Literally, I felt, I was in my 30s and I was literally retired because I'm living, I have a house at the sea, for example. I'm doing just enough to have this fantastic lifestyle, and it was a no-brainer to think beyond the next 5 years or the next 10 years, or can I really do this for the next 40 years? So these thoughts never crossed my mind. And it was literally a little business. I turned over 500,000 here about 2 years in. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a Facebook page. I didn't do any marketing or advertising in the local newspaper. It was literally by word of mouth with the current clients that I had in the little swim school that told all their friends and their families, etc. That is how I basically got new clients and still have some of the clients that started with me 10 years ago now in still the same business. Okay. So I'm rebuilding the same business now for the third time. Okay. So I went that first decade, I went very quickly up. And here COVID happened. And I know a lot of people always say, yeah, but COVID and this and, but COVID taught me to look beyond this brick and mortar business in the sense of, oh my word, no one prepared me for having some sort of reserve, So this first 5 years, I was spending the money I was getting, yet I didn't have like a lot of debt in the sense of credit cards, and I just basically had my house payment and the business cost that it costed me to actually run the facility to offer the specific service to the customer. So it was basically, I was living off my own sales, so to speak. But I was in a position that didn't prepare me for what COVID done. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, the business is closed forcefully by COVID, and I didn't prepare to have a little bit of cash flow during the time of COVID when we were not allowed to operate. So I know a lot of businesses got destructive, it got damaged, but it also taught me a very invaluable lesson in business. So with that in mind, I then opened. So I was already at the top, but not financially at the top. So now I've got 5 years plus hands-on teaching. So now I felt like an expert, in the sense of all the things I've learned, the hands-on teaching with the clients. Now I'm thinking about, okay, am I going to do this again? Because otherwise I have to put my property on the market and kind of get fair and square. So in this period, I then opened the next one, which is the same business, the same swim school. It's in the same town. It's on the same property and the same clients, but a little bit of a different mindset to prepare me to have reserves when something like COVID hits again. Okay, so this was the period in my life that I want to, how can I say, nail it into the wall, where I knew God on the way up. Okay, and this is a very fundamental point on about the purpose of this video, guys, in the sense of I just knew him. Everything was fine, everything was smoothly, everything was working well. Business was thriving. I was making more than I believe someone else in the same industry was making. The seasonal period of this type of business with an indoor swimming pool and the weather conditions. So everything kind of taught me up until a point, okay, well, it's like, yeah, I still knew God, but, it was just, I'm doing my thing. And never really contemplated what on earth is going to happen when something like COVID happened. Okay. So the reason I'm putting it on the top is because I was at the top and I was what I want to teach you guys now is only after losing this one that I come to terms on what new entrepreneurs make their biggest mistake of in business. Okay. So the biggest mistake, which I'll get to now, was something that I could only learn through losing it for a second time. So you can already see that name and that name is different. So my thinking was that one is kind of done and dusted in the sense of I can't use that same name now after such a disruptive thing like COVID, and I changed the name. However, this one taught me something. I want you guys to pay attention in the sense of you now thinking of starting your own business, or even if you've had your business for 3 or 4 decades. Okay, you've built this thing. Where is it going? Where is it taking you? And then what's going to happen after that? Okay, so this one is actually on my way down where I met God. Because this downward fall from COVID, starting the business again, a little bit more of an expert, but naming it something different. And I was on the top and I had this sense of, okay, well, the industry I'm in, I know exactly what everyone is doing wrong, what they're not supposed to do, how not to teach children how to swim, how not to do water fitness classes. So I got into a sense about reaching other people, reaching more clients in the sense of what I call the first stage, new entrepreneurs experience. Okay. And this is called the stage of defamation, because it was in this period on the top that I thought, okay, well, I've got this, under my belt. I've got the experience. I've got the results. I've got more than, 250 testimonials from clients who are doing kind of my marketing for me, my word of mouth. And it was during this building period of launching my website. And the biggest mistake I made during this period, I just want to get my notes, guys, was that I kind of started attacking my competitors, and like saying like you shouldn't do it like this, you got to do it like this. And basically I was so focused on proving everyone else wrong, and this is why I call the stage the first stage of defamation, because it is simply strategically an attack on your competitor. And I was so obsessed of criticism. I was basically building my identity from a point of what's the word? Opposition. Okay. And very, very emotionally frustrated. This is the word I was looking for. And doing my best during this period to expose what the industry was, kind of not doing right. And this is why I call this period of my life, which is the last 5 years, the half decade. And this is the period where I met God, because I knew God and I met God here, which I fell so hard, even like 10 times worse than COVID times. And it literally brought me to my knees in the sense of, okay, you're not the alpha and omega on this planet. You kind of this small. And this stage brought me to the stage of, which I call the second stage for new entrepreneurs, is basically my desperation. I was in such a desperation stage where I started with a swim school, offering swimming lessons, teaching children how to swim. And then also, because I've got the swimming pool, I'm also the water fitness instructor. So I did water fitness classes. And that was kind of basically my core offer, I would call it. But then because I was in such a desperation period in my life on the way down, like seriously fast on the way down, I started taking out loans to keep my facility open. I borrowed money from my parents. I borrowed money here and there, up until such a snowball effect that the income I made from here, it was just going straight to all my debt, you know. And this is what I call the second stage, why I call it the desperation stage, because you start focusing on like chasing sales. You are so bombarding with your customers, and you kind of force them, you convince them that this is the right thing for them to buy. And regardless of the price, you're so emotionally in your sales, and you burn money so fast just to scale everything. And this is also a period where I overcomplicated systems, you know. And then the fourth one, it's like I'm in a panic in my market. So everyone I talk to in town is like, yeah, I'm the swim school, you know, I've got the swim school, I do the lessons in the town, and you know, I got this like desperation sales tactic in the sense, and everything was urgent. Everything was urgent, like adding classes, finding instructors to fill more classes, finding more clients, raising my prices. Like it was crazy, guys. This last half decade of my life was literally a thing I don't want to repeat ever in my life. Okay, so look at your current situation and where you are going and how you are building something in your life that can get you to a point where you are actually, like all the others, very successful. Okay, so now you can see, you know, the first stage, second stage, and the most remarkable thing about this is I opened the same business with a different name. And this time I started with the end in mind. For example, what I mean by the end in mind is when you consider serving other people without expecting anything in return, automatically you, how can I say the word, nullify. You nullify the fact that you are proving other people wrong and desperate for their money. Okay. Regardless of your financial situation, regardless of how many thousands you are in debt, this one I built with the end in mind, because I saw, only by meeting God, I saw the actual purpose for my life in the sense of helping other people build their businesses with a foundation, which we'll cover just now, and that's stage 3, with a foundation so strong that something like COVID, something like an adversity in your life, like accumulation of debt, anything catastrophic in your life, this thing that you build with a proper foundation will actually be the thing that carries you through all of these hard times. I'm not talking about profit, guys. I'm talking about your purpose in the sense of who you came to serve and who you came to help. Okay, so in a nutshell, the third stage for new entrepreneurs, and this is the stage where I am now. And this is why I called my channel Building Under Pressure, because I am really building under pressure, because I have to run this facility and build this new thing in the sense of helping business owners who are stuck in the founder's seat still after 10, 20, 30 years. And everything they know on how to do the business is in their heads, you know. And the most phenomenal thing I discovered here about myself is how I think. And I couldn't have realized everything I realized here by starting with the end in mind if I didn't go through this phase and if I didn't go through this phase. Okay, so the third stage, guys, is literally, I call it the deployment stage, which leads to everything that you've learned, okay, and everything that you encountered that actually made you a stronger person, a stronger adult, can I say, and you realize that you don't have to bombard your customers about what others are doing wrong. In fact, if you get stage 3 right, you will be in a position where you are competing against yourself. That's the fundamental thing. You will get to a position of having no competition, okay? Because at this very moment, I'm holding myself responsible and I'm also holding myself accountable for the next level, okay? So the deployment stage is something where I kind of stopped reacting emotionally and start deploying strategically. And what I mean by strategically is this is kind of like a breakthrough stage, and I now have systems replacing the chaos and the desperation of the previous half decade. I've got content that I'm creating at this very moment, like now, the video I'm doing, and also all my other videos and content and manuals that I've created during this stage that I'm going to deploy in the sense of infrastructure on not having anyone fall this hard, because it's not a nice place to be, guys. And then the final point in the sense of the deployment is sustainability. Okay, so when I started this, remember in the beginning of the video, I said I kind of didn't see myself in the sense of 40 years down the line. Okay. And this one, I was so desperate in this phase of the business, I was adding things that didn't serve my existing customers. So I was adding a lot of products. I was adding a lot of network marketing products like Amway and stuff like that, that had nothing to do with swimming lessons, that had nothing to do with an actual health and fitness little wellness center. A swimming pool, for example. It was adding on all of these things, and it broke all my attention of just focusing on what I did here and then kind of duplicate it, but never duplicate or multiply something that doesn't work, guys. Okay, so I quickly learned, and I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to start by the end with the end in mind, I can't do what I did here, and I can't do what I did here. I have to change and I have to pivot this whole facility in order for me to get out of operating mode and actually own this place. Okay, because remember, in this I'm still running the classes. I'm still doing the marketing. I'm still doing the sales. I'm still actually physically cleaning the pool. I'm still physically sweeping the floors, answering WhatsApp messages at 9 o'clock at night, for example. So I quickly learned that my customer's entry point needs to, not like a gatekeeper, but it needs to be very streamlined, literally how you swim in a pool, you know. So I took everything I've learned as a swimming teacher and a water fitness instructor, and I applied that to my business in the sense of thinking with the end in mind. Okay. So this little triangle, what I love about it, it's like, before I started the video, I said to myself, the most fundamental thing, here, I didn't know about growth. I didn't know about successive generational wealth in the sense, okay? And also here, I didn't know about it. All I was thinking about is paying my bills because they are actually starting to become more than my income. And I was looking for ways, forceful ways to get more money faster, but it was in real time actually damaging my relationship with my customer that I had. Okay. And it was also in this period that I learned by getting new customers, it costs a lot. It costs you almost 5 times the amount of getting new customers instead of just retaining the ones you had. Okay. So this thing, and the reason I'm putting it in this sense, oh, my whiteboard marker just went dry, but it's an arrow. So it's actually kind of in the sense of following the principle, what comes around goes around. Okay. So now, in just a decade of starting the same business for a third time, I am not looking back in the sense of all the mistakes I made. I'm looking back in the sense of, okay, what worked? What worked? And even if it's just one thing in my business that is working, I am now going to strategically deploy that. Okay. And this is the phase that I'm in now where I stop forcing the growth. So literally, this little triangle is like the seasons. Winter is going to come. Winter doesn't say to summer, like, listen, I'm taking the year off. Like, do your thing. I'm not coming this year. It doesn't work like that, guys. So this is going to happen again, maybe in 10 or 20 years from now, because of what I've learned. And now I'm implementing what I've learned, yet I'm refining for the future. Okay, because I'm not going to stay inside of this business and continue what I did here without strategic systems in the sense of multiplying that little branch into more branches. Okay, so that's the big picture. So the fundamental thing about what I discovered in just using my building under pressure as an example is this framework applies to any brick and mortar business in the sense of fitness, wellness centers, plumbing businesses, coaching businesses, any kind of brick and mortar center or business that is owned by one person, which is called or referred to as the founder of the business. You might not be the founder of the industry, but you're the founder of that particular section of the industry. Okay. So I'm not the founder of swimming, teaching children how to swim, but I'm a founder of a swim school. Okay. So now So now I want to just show you all how my thinking works of being someone that is not making millions and millions. Because what I've learned so far, guys, is, and I actually thought about this last week, is this period of my life, I was, let's say for example, I was accumulating about 20 to 25,000 a month. Okay. And I was listening to people that makes about 20 times as what I did. So that leap from, let's say for example, making 20,000 a month, and which leads to what's 20 after a year. So it's a quarter of a million basically in an annual income. So the gurus and the mentors I was listening to made what I made in a year in a month's time. Okay. And it really stretched my thinking in the sense of, okay, if I want to get where they are, I need to seriously hustle. I need to do 4 times as more than what I'm currently doing, and focusing so much on, like, okay, how do they do it? What do they do? Instead of narrowing it down to why am I doing it? Okay, what's the purpose of making more than what I'm currently making? Okay, which brings me to how someone can actually build a business, yet the business doesn't run them. They run the business. Okay, because the first 2 businesses I opened, those 2 businesses ran me. Okay, it determined my time, it determined my income, it determined my cash flow, it determined my, how can I say, my vacation time, my time away from the pool, so to speak. So it determined basically everything, and without me even realizing, because my best example is my own father, and he's been running his business, I believe, from what I see, very successful, yet he's still sitting in the same office, in the same chair, in a business that he built 40 years ago. And it was only by thinking about, okay, I I don't want to see myself in the next 40 years still doing the classes, still running the facility, still cleaning, the pool, the maintenance. So how do I actually, because remember the foundation phase of your business, let me just take a new pen. The foundation phase is something you can strengthen without losing kind of the ground, so to speak. It's like you buy a house and you extend or you expand the house, but the foundation of the house it's there. So I'm not saying break everything down and restart from scratch, but you have some sort of foundation, but we can strengthen the foundation without kind of digging up the existing foundation. It's like kind of like planting a seed, and you plant the seed, you have that faith element that something is going to happen eventually. Okay, you don't go to the soil and continually dig up that seed and check, okay, what's happening to the seed, and then put it back, kind of thing. You just all of a sudden one day when you walk past, oh, there's a shoot coming out. And most often than not, new entrepreneurs, especially founders, in their period of their life where they start their own business, they kind of get the plane on the runway, so to speak, and forget to realize about that seed also growing roots. And this is the foundation point I'm trying to get to, guys. So you have a business which I refer to your brick and mortar. And so this is not for a digital business, guys. This is not for people that are selling courses online and digital programs or stuff like that. This is for specific for people that have brick and mortar buildings, businesses. So sometimes people who have this business doesn't even own the building. They just rent the business premises to offer their services, for example. Okay, look at all the shopping centers, all the different shopping stores in the shopping center. They don't own those buildings. They actually rent from the people who built and constructed the whole center. Okay, so now you are operating in the business. Okay, and the phenomenal thing is when you look at all the businesses, you have the founder, the employees, you have the products. Okay, you have the products. Here's the products. You have your services, all on shelves. And then you have employees and basically customers coming in from the door. And whatever you sell, whatever service you sell, the principle of the business works exactly the same. Okay, if what is going on in your head, for example, you can't, how can I say, get out in the sense of delegating to one of your employees how you would handle a customer complaint, or if something goes wrong in the business, in the sense of cash flow, you are also the problem solver. You are the customer relationship manager. You are the one that goes in at 12 o'clock at night when the alarm goes off and the security company phones you and says, listen, something's on or whatever. You're the one that pick up your keys and get in your car. So how do we actually take the founder and we go out on the business? So here you are just operator. Now we're going to move to the stage where you become the owner of the business. And this is what I am now currently doing. Okay. So I've got this business, the swim school business. And now I am focusing on how do I become the owner of this. So I asked myself a very important question. What do I have to do? Not what can I do? What do I have to do? Because if I don't do something that is out of my comfort zone, I will never be able to work on the business as the owner. Okay? So I thought long and hard about it, and I decided that everything I've learned during my phases when I knew God on the way up and when I met God on the way down, the only way I can actually get out from being the operator to the owner is in the form of an author. So I published a book about how the last decade of my life made me look at the way people build businesses from a different perspective. Okay, so that's only one example, guys. And this example is one that I have to learn patience Because this is not an asset that I have in this business. For example, a quick swimming lesson for a 5-year-old. Mommy phones me, books a class, jump in the pool kind of thing. Instant gratification, instant payment, instant reward, instant results. Okay, this is what's happening here. With this thing, I need to probably wait. I don't know, how long does an author wait to eventually get the income from that service? Okay, so now I've got a business asset, but this is so short term. These services that I'm offering here, it is literally daily and monthly, okay? Which in a period of time that the income is so slow in this brick and mortar facility that waiting for this is now the biggest hurdle that I need to teach myself. And I'm also teaching all of you watching this, because you have to get to terms that this might take years. Okay? It took me nearly 6 years to write that book. Okay? It took me another 18 months to publish the book. And what's the difference between the two, guys? Can you spot the difference that this is kind of instant income, you know, like let me make a dollar sign, instant income, which that instant income is something that is in my my comfort zone to keep me in the business, okay? Something to get to work on the business, you need something that can take you there. You can't force your way out and into ownership in the sense of, many founders, like when I speak to my dad, he still thinks he owns the business, but instead, in hindsight, the business owns him. Okay, because if he leaves, everything collapses. And the same with me at this very moment. If I don't offer classes for a week, no client's going to pay me. Okay, so that is the two scenarios I'm using in my own personal life, and raising a level up to also start helping other people to not get stuck and owned by their own businesses they built for freedom, for success, for retirement. Okay, so I need to be patient because this might take years. Okay, and the most fundamental part of this period where I'm in my life is, okay, now that I've got the so-called authority of publishing a book, what did I write in the book that can help me for the rest of my life? Okay, so this is also something I sell in the sense of, I call it now an asset instead of a service. Okay, because an asset compounds over years. And this is the biggest thing most entrepreneurs miss. Okay, so now you have this example of the founder, the operator/operator in this business. But this person knows this particular industry. They know the market, they know the target audience, just by having worked hands-on inside. And by me taking that information, how can I say, the intellectual property, and put it in a book that compounds as a business asset, eventually I will have the success in becoming the owner by teaching others how I got out of my brick and mortar. Okay. I trust this makes sense, guys. And I am very, very excited in building the two together because it is only by literally hands-on life experience, real life lessons, that you become the person who not just thinks about themselves, but a person who actually realizes, oh, wait, you know, what I know how to do might just help someone else. Okay. And that's why I started building under pressure. Okay. And that's basically, how can I say, my new trilogy. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Over and out, and I will see you all in the next video.